And there's a lovely little change of emphasis here. Crichton Smith goes from talking about the horror of the bodies, and he thinks about what they were returning home to. The lights were lit last night. Lovely little bit of alliteration, which just sort of makes us spot that this might be important. The lights were lit last night. The tables creaked with hoarded food. They wheeled the ship to port in the new year, which would erase the old, its errant voices, its unpractised tones. And I think that's a lovely little, quatrain, 4 lines. The lights, which just explains what the men were coming home to, and it anticipates or rather explains the anticipation the people back home, the people watching the ship arrive, would have been feeling. The lights were lit, ready for the celebrations. The tables creaked with hoarded food, this sense that the food has been hoarded for years, it's been hidden away so that it couldn't be taken away for the war. It's been hoarded, they've been saving it all up for this special day. And they willed the ship to port in the new year. And this notion, they desperately wanted it. They willed the ship to port. Not they looked out for the ship. They willed the ship to port. They're expecting it. They're desperate for it. And the new year, which would erase the old. The new year, which would erase the old. The old year, of course, being 1918, being the last year of the war, with so much death and destruction on a global scale. It's errant voices, unpractised tones, and this is a reference to the new year. It's so new, it's errant, it's not practised, it's unpractised tones, which again, this idea is that the new year is going to be new, it's going to be different, it's not had time to establish itself. And then from there, it's like the elder, the persona, which Crichton Smith has devised for telling the story, asks another question. Have we done ill, I ask? And, it's this, seeking, forgiveness from a God. It's nothing, it's nothing to do with God. Have we done ill, I ask? My sober hat floated in the water. Sober, as in the sense of, like fixed hat, it's something permanent. My sober hat floated in the water. And I don't know, is this suggesting that he's taken it off? My fixed body, a simulacrum of the transient waste. And a simulacrum is just a word which means an image of the transient waste. Transient means fleeting. Butterflies' lives are transient. And waste, what is the waste? Is it the soldiers? Is it the ship? Is it, or as he says, for everything that was mobile, planks are swayed, the keeling ships exploding, and the splayed cold insect bodies. And here we finally get him talking about the men as splayed cold insect bodies. This is an important image, I believe, because splayed suggests that they're just floating everywhere, they've got no control over it. The bodies are cold because they're dead, and they're insect. There's a sense that there's an unreality here. Splayed cold insect bodies. Insect as well, used as an adjective here, suggesting that they're not men. And he then contrasts this with the notion of the church. I have seen your church solid. I've seen your church solid. This is the rock, the stone, the faith. This is the physical building and the faith which has sustained these men through the war. This is not. This lovely, this is not. Simple sentence, this is not. Simple statement. This is not solid. This is fluid. This is beyond his knowledge. The water pours into the parting timbers where I ache above the globular eyes. The parting timbers, so this is the timbers are parting, they're coming apart. So the ship is continuing to break up. Where I ache above the globular eyes, and it's ache, I feel pain, I hurt above the globular eyes, which of course is the eyes of the dead sailors. And the notion is carried on. The slack heads turn, the slack, they've got no control, no volition over their movements, no control over their movements. So the slack heads turn, ringing the horizon without a sound with mortal bells. Almost, ringing the horizon. This is an echo of the orb the horizon in Iolaire and an enigma. So we've got the sense of the ringing of the horizon is actually, reminding us of the enigma. But also without a sound with mortal bells. And I think that this is the slack heads moving backwards and forwards without a sound with mortal bells. I think he's almost suggesting that it's like the the heads are moving backwards and forwards like the clapper in a bell. But they're not making any sound as they do that, but he's feeling almost perhaps that they should be making sound. And then he also, it's like he's losing control. He then describes the heads as a strange exuberant flower unknown to our dry churchyards. And it's this contrast, the dry with the wet. And so he does what you do when you look to God. I look up. He looks up for guidance. He looks up for God. Who knows? The sky begins to brighten as before. And is this the sense that, things are going to get better? This is a sign from God. And then the sky begins to brighten as before. Is this as before today, as before in the past, as before when these men were alive? And then he calls it remorseless amber, remorseless, with no remorse, with no regret, with no feeling, amber, suggesting fire and burning. And the bruised blue grows at the erupting edges. And you just got this wonderful description of the colours of the sunrise in the morning. And, combination of the colours, the blue, the amber, but also remorseless and erupting, which are, both have connotations which are going to suggest something really not good. And then he speaks directly to God. I have known you, God. I have known you, God. Where should the stress be? Where should the emphasis be? So I've known you, God, not as the playful one, but as the black thunderer from hills. And this is the sense that, he's not just talking about God being a God of love. This is very much an Old Testament God, one who, consigns people to the fires of hell. And the black thunderer from hills, this is not a gentle God. And he's acknowledging that this is the God that he has known. I'm just changing colour here, not for any particular reason in case you think it is. But I kneel and touch this dumb blonde head. And it's the contrast. He finally brings himself to touch one of the heads of one of the sailors. My hand is scorched. And I get the sense that it's almost like if you put your hand on an iron or something hot, it's like that reflex. I don't think he means literally scorched. It is very much a metaphorical scorching. And, almost like he takes his hand away because it's so hot, in inverted commas. And then he struggles to come to terms with it. Its human quality confuses me. How can it be human and yet dead? It's human, he's feeling the hair in the water. And as he says, so I have not felt such hair so dear before. I've not felt such hair so dear before. The stress there, I have not felt such hair so dear. And we've got the stress, we've got the emphasis here. I have not felt such hair so dear before, nor seen such I realise. And I have not felt such hair. It's feeling the hair, and it's as I said in class, it's if you've ever stuck your head under the swimming pool when you're at the swimmies, and if you feel your hair, it's got a life of its own, and it feels much better than it does in real life, or maybe that's just me. But similarly, looking at the eyes, and there's the sense of that the hair is so dear because it still feels alive, that the eyes are so real because they're blindly staring at him. And this lovely reversal, I kneel from you. So he's turning his back on God. He's kneeling from God. And here we are in the run up to the end of the poem then. So this water soaks me. So he's in the water. He's in the water up to his up to his neck, I suppose, or whatever, trying to come to terms with it. And I am running with its tart, sharp joy. And it's this contrast of the actual joy of being in the water, I suppose. It's like a contrast. It's something real, perhaps, contrasted with God. I am floating here. And you'll notice that we're on to really quite short sentences here. In my black uniform, I am embraced by these green, ignorant waters. Green, ignorant waters. I am calm. And we'll come back to that bit at the end, I am calm. But these green, ignorant waters, they are unknowing. They have no knowledge. We've already heard the reference to green at the start of the poem, the opening line. Ignorant, they know nothing. So they're nothing to do with God. That's my sense, nothing. Ignorant, God might have a plan. These waters don't. They are ignorant. And that's where I think we're getting the dichotomy. This is where we're getting the contrast, the conflict. Is he calm because he has turned his back on God? Or is he calm, and this is kind of implied by the green ignorant waters, I am embraced by these green ignorant waters, I am calm, that he's accepting the reality of it and acknowledging that, it's a part of God's plan, in that God had a plan. These are green ignorant waters, so the two are not, the waters do not actually take anything away from God. Now, I appreciate that that's a bit of a tenuous connection, but it's very much up to yourselves to try and come up with something to say about that. You really do have to address the end. And so that was the Iolaire. What I recommend you do is that you take the time to write it out in full by yourselves longhand. Make sure you get the punctuation right. And also, I've actually gotten an awful lot out of recording it when I put it up on the website for you. So I'd be tempted to invite you to do that as well. The slight noise you've got at the background there is because my son Paul has just come round to say hello. So say hello, Paul.
Hi.
That's him. And I think with that should be enough for you. Thanks very much for listening.